record this. I did this for the other class as well, and I'll do it here because I think this tip might help a lot of you figure out some of the stuff that you need to do for the chapter 9 lab. So, so suppose I'm writing software for a hospital to use, right? It's going to be their patient log, whatever. They're writing software for them to hold patient records. So make public class patient, and then we'll create a constructor for it. Actually, wait, for this patient, we'll have a string name, int age, and boolean is sick. Yeah, it'll store whether they're sick or not. And these are the three things that we'll store within this record. And then we'll create a constructor for it. And for the constructor, we really just want their name and their age. And then for is sick, we'll just default that to false. This dot name equals name. This dot age equals age. Is sick equals false. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and make these. This one will make public, the name. And then the rest of these will make private. So let's go create. So suppose I wanted to have a array of patient records. We'll just call this records. New array of patients. So let's say we'll have 5 different patients, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and create 5 different patients. So there's a few ways that I could do this. One, I could say, records 0 equals yada, yada, yada. Records 1, yada, yada, yada. This is a totally valid way of doing it. I'm going to do mine a little bit differently. I'm going to create it. I'm just going to create a manual array. So I'm going to say new patient. And one patient will be Bob. Bob is 37 years old. And then we'll have another new patient. Rose. Rose is 25 years old. New patient. Jeff, who is 18. New patient. Robert, who is 57. And one last one. New patient. Allie, who is 23. Okay. So we've created a array of our records, of our patients, and I can access the name of each of these records. So I can say, let's say I want to have a function that's, here we'll just write a function called public void print all records. Set in, and we'll say for current patients in records, system out printf patient name, age, is sick, okay. New line. And then we'll say current patient dot name because that's public. And then I need, because these two are private, I need to write how do you implement the percent. That's part of this is how printf works. So here printf is print formatted string. So we've created a formatted string here, and then these percents are the labels for where certain things are going to go. So percent %s expects a string. So after we have our format string, which is this thing, we need a series of parameters that fit this query. So this one is the first parameter is expected to be a string. The second parameter is expected to be an integer digit, which is what %d is. And then the last one is expected to be a Boolean. So we need to write, so basically what I'm doing here is I want to print out all the variables of, actually, you know what? Maybe a better way to do it would be, instead of this, actually, copy what I have right now, current patient.print records. I'll write a function for that in here. Public void print record. We'll even just actually say toString. How's that? We'll say system out println current patient toString, and we'll override. I fear some of you might be getting confused with the printf formatting. It's just fine. You'll get it over time as you practice with it, but also because this just makes better sense structurally to do it this way. So we'll say name, and then tab over, age, tab over, is sick. I'll just leave it at that. Is sick. And that'll be how we convert our patient. We represent our patient as a string. I'll just print out all the variables. So one thing to note is that what's going on here? I do have the colon. Why are you being angry at me? Weird. There's nothing wrong here. Yeah, it's just probably stuck. Patience. One thing I want to show, because people had questions about the worker class for Lab 9. The worker class, you just need to implement those functionalities, which, you know, implementing functionalities generally means using, excuse me, implementing functionalities generally means using methods. One thing that people might not have known that you could do, or that wasn't like immediately clear, one cool thing about Java and object-oriented programming in general, you can pass objects into methods. So if we wanted to say, let's say we had a separate method of just like, let me think this way. This is going to be like a really contrived way to do it, but it doesn't matter. For patient current and records, that's how we go through our records. And we only, and I have a function here called public void print sick records only. Print only sick records. We can pass a patient object into a method and just say if patient.get is sick, we'll go ahead and system out println patient.toString. So, whoa. What has happened here? That's really weird. All right, guys. There's somehow someone else in here. Okay. We're just gonna make a brand new REPL. Java. Gonna go ahead and copy what I have to here. That was really strange. And then we'll call this patient Java. Okay. So here we'll need a few methods. We'll need public string to string. Okay. And then, okay, so we'll parse through each of our records here, and then we'll say print only sick records. This is a enhanced for loop. So what we're saying is, given this collection, in this case it's an array, given this array, and this array contains patient objects, then we're going to parse over each object within each entry within the array. So let's say I had an array of integers. This would say int cur. This cur can be whatever you want to name it. It's just a variable name. But basically the colon means for each iterator in this collection is how you would kind of read this. And if you go back and rewatch the old lectures on loops, I do break this down in more detail of how it works. But for now, we'll kind of just keep going. If a lot of people have questions about it, then I can break it down more. But I think most of you, for the most part, understand enhanced for loops at this point. Basically, what I'm trying to showcase here, is that you can pass custom objects in methods. So for lab 9, that will become very useful because you have a separate function. So you have a function, you have a class that stores your customer's information. And on there are some private variables. And remember, to access private variables, only this class can access its own private variables. No one else can directly access the private variables. Like, for here, I could say records one dot name I could print out the name of the patient at records 1, which would be Rose. So this line will print out Rose, and I can do that because I have made the name variable public. So for public variables, you can access them directly by the reference to the class. Suppose I created a patient test is equal to new patient test, and 42. We'll say, suppose I create a new record there, new object reference here. I could reference this object, and I can access the name variable of it because it's public. But if I try to say age, I'm going to get an error because age is not visible to this other class. Age is private, meaning only this class can see it. So because we can't directly call private variables, we need to use what are called getters or setters if we want to change or view variables. So if we want to get the value of a variable, we have to create a getter, public int get age, and this will return age. That's all you need to do for a getter. And then public boolean is sick, we'll call it, just because that's kind of the naming convention for We'll use this here, so we'll just call it get is sick. Return is sick. And then let's say we should also have setters for these two. In my program, I'm not going to, but maybe down the line, we want to be able to change our user's age. Well, then the way a setter would work is we would pass in, we'd call the set method, pass in the argument for the new value we want that variable to have, and then we just set it over here. This is sick is equal to is sick, right? Right, this should make a lot of sense. Hopefully this doesn't really confuse anybody. This should be pretty intuitive, pretty easy to understand. We all good? Anybody have questions up to this point? Anybody maybe confused about how this will help in Lab 9? Because this is a pretty big hint for how to do Lab 9 with the worker class and the patient or the customer class. Someone was asking in the last class how the worker could possibly see these variables in the different class, and that explained it. And remember, because each of these are instances of the patient class, each of these entries in the records, which we will access through, records I, each of these records I will have the methods available to them. So I can say get age. See, all those methods are available there. Get age, get is sick, set age, name. All those things that are available that we define publicly within the patient.java class is available through each iteration, each instance of that class. So yeah, this is just like a little dumb program to showcase using that. So if we go ahead and print out our only sick records, oh, actually, it's not going to print anything out. So we can say, just say here, records at 2, set is sick to true. And we'll also do that for 3. We'll just do it for 1, 2, and 3. How about that? So records 1, 2, and 3 are now going to be, those patients will now be sick. And those are going to be Rose, Jeff, and Robert. Should print out when we call this function. There we go. Rose, Jeff, Robert. Exactly as we expected it. Cool. Anyways, that was just like the short little demo to help you guys with Lab 9. Any questions you guys have about anything? Anything we've covered up to this point? Anything involving the upcoming assignments? Today is really just an open day. You guys get to ask questions and I'll write demo code to help you guys out. What all would you guys like to know about? And if there's nothing, I'll end class early. What line 18 does? Sure. As I explained a little bit ago, this is called an enhanced for loop. And if you want more explanation on this, I would encourage you to go back and watch the lectures I have on loops. But the way of enhanced for loop works is, given this collection, for each pass of the loop, we're going to iterate over this abstract, what we call iterator. So the first time the loop runs, patient cur is going to be this patient. Then on the next run of the loop, it's going to be this patient, then this patient, then this patient. So instead of having a for loop where we iterate a increment an integer I, and call from the index of okay, maybe a different way to explain it. This These two loops that I'm about to write are exactly the same. These two are exactly the same. These two loops do they work exactly the same. As you can see, this one is just a little bit clearer to read. When you're writing loops when you're iterating over a collection and you don't care about the index, it's usually it's a good idea to use the enhanced for loop because it just makes reading your code easier. But no one's going to hate you if you always use the standard for loops either. The only thing that this really does is just save you some typing and not having to call the thing directly. And you can even you can give the iterator any name you want. So sometimes that can make like if you're going to be doing a lot of operations on the object. So generally, when you're iterating over a list of objects, it's sometimes preferable to do this because it just becomes tiresome to keep writing records I dot this, records I dot that, and it can become like difficult to keep track of what it is. This way, you create a name specifically for the variable, so you can very clearly communicate to the reader what you're referencing. But it's just one of those semantics thing. Both of these work. Both of these are functional. Both of these, when people read, they will be able to understand. One of them is just one of those like nicer ways to do it. But if you're not comfortable with the enhanced for loop, then just stick to the standard for loop. It's totally fine right now. I'm not going to dock you points if you don't use enhanced for loops, because I know these tend to confuse students a lot until they get a little bit more comfortable with Java. Any other questions? Ask questions, guys. Don't just sit quietly because you're afraid of holding up the class or whatever. People who want to leave can leave whenever they want. It's online school. No one's going to stop you. But if you have questions and you're confused and you're not understanding stuff, don't feel shy about just asking. Literally, no one's going to judge you. No one's going to make fun of you for anything. It's better that you ask these questions because I get a lot of messages and emails from students that they're falling behind and struggling and they're not getting it. So, like, clearly there's people who have questions to ask, and I would hope that those people are here today to ask those questions. So, if you feel confused, don't be shy about asking questions in front of everybody. And if it makes you more comfortable, you can ask your question to me through like anonymous direct message or through like the direct message feature in the Zoom chat. But if you're feeling confused and you feel like you're not understanding this whole programming thing, this is your time to ask me questions because I'm not going to be available outside of class time to answer a lot of questions. I'll pop into the homework chat every once in a while to help people out and give tips, but usually I'll let you guys kind of run that yourselves. So in class is really the only time you have to ask me directly. One second. Sorry about that. Are there any questions at all? Anything you guys want reviewed? Anything you guys want demos or explanations of? Okay, if there isn't, then we'll call it a day there. Best of luck on your assignments, guys, and I will see you. Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Milestone 1 and Milestone 2, the combat and the exploration map supposed to be different classes. or were
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
They were supposed to be there. Okay.
Well, in the milestone 3, there should be different classes. You might have, I don't know how you submitted them, but when you submitted milestone 1, it was supposed to be just the combat. When you submitted milestone 2, it was supposed to be just the exploration. Milestone 3, you're putting those pieces together to make the full game.
Okay. I thought I was supposed to just implement the exploration map already into the
Yeah,
combat.
that's what. Oh, no, no, no. They were supposed to be separate.
Oh, okay. I did. Okay.
It's okay if you did it, if you implemented them together. It's not a big deal. That just means you're one step ahead. But
Okay. They're just not in separate classes. I just put them all together. I guess I have to.
that's not the best code. The reason why they should be in separate classes is because it's better code designed to delegate responsibility to
Okay.
separate classes and objects.
Do you know when we'll be getting feedback on our milestones?
I've been pretty bogged down, unfortunately, with my end of I'm a student like you guys, so I have finals coming up too. I'm really am trying to get feedback on them, but at this point, all I can say is do your best to provide something workable. I'm going to be pretty forgiving with the grading, as long as you turn in something that runs and compiles. You are on set to pass the class.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's all. Best of luck, guys. The new TFT set I haven't played. I have been. Anytime that I've not been working has just been doing other games. But yeah, I haven't played League at all. All right. I'll talk to you guys later.